In the heart of China, a serial killer so ruthless, he earned the chilling nickname the Monster Killer, terrorized entire communities. His name was Yang Xinhai, and his crimes were so brutal they shocked the nation. This is the story of the Monster Killer of China, a name hidden from the world, buried by a government that shook an entire nation. Welcome to one of the deadliest true crime cases you've never heard of. Yang Xinhai, infamously dubbed the Monster Killer, stands as one of the most terrifying serial killers in history, yet remains relatively unknown outside of China. His reign of terror spanned from 2000 to 2003 in the Henan province, where he committed a staggering 67 murders, alongside numerous rapes and robberies. This brutality surpasses that of many notorious Western killers, including Jack the Ripper, highlighting a chilling level of violence that deserves greater recognition. His actions were marked by a level of cruelty that raises questions about the darker aspects of human nature and societal responses to such horrors. Yang's modus operandi involved breaking into homes at night, targeting primarily vulnerable individuals such as elderly women and children. Armed with weapons like axes, hammers, and shovels, he would brutally murder entire families, often leaving behind scenes of unimaginable horror. His choice of victims and the sadistic nature of his attacks earned him the moniker Monster Killer. The sheer scale of his crimes, 67 murders and 23 rapes, paints a picture of a killer whose brutality is not only shocking, but also deeply disturbing. His ability to evade capture for years, coupled with a transient lifestyle and the limited technological resources available to law enforcement at the time, allowed him to continue his spree largely unchecked. China's hidden shame, a violent anomaly. Despite the enormity of his crimes, Yang Xinhai's notoriety pales in comparison to that of Western serial killers. Several factors contribute to this relative obscurity. The Chinese government has historically maintained strict control over media narratives, particularly regarding crime and violence. This has led to limited public discourse around such cases, as the state often prioritizes social stability over sensational reporting. Media coverage differs greatly between China and Western countries. Unlike the Western media's fascination with serial killers, Chinese outlets may downplay or obscure details that could reflect poorly on society or law enforcement. This can prevent a broader understanding of the impact and scale of such heinous crimes. The historical timing of Yang's crimes occurred during a period when China was undergoing significant social and political changes. These shifts may have influenced how such events were reported and perceived by the public, further contributing to his relative anonymity outside of China. Yang Xinhai's dark path, childhood trauma, and cultural revolution. Born in 1968 during China's Cultural Revolution, Yang Xinhai grew up in an environment marked by extreme poverty and social upheaval. The Cultural Revolution brought about widespread famine and violence, shaping the formative years of many individuals like Yang, who experienced significant trauma during this tumultuous period. Yang's impoverished childhood fostered resentment and a view of society as adversarial, contributing to his later violent acts against innocent families. Childhood trauma is a significant factor in many serial killers' development, and Yang's experiences created a breeding ground for his violent behavior. Yang's early criminal activity, the transition from petty crime to murder. Before becoming one of China's most notorious serial killers, Yang Xinhai engaged in various criminal activities that laid the groundwork for his later atrocities. His criminal history began with petty thefts during his teenage years, but escalated over time due to repeated incarcerations in labor camps for crimes such as burglary and attempted rape. While serving time in these facilities, Yang experienced profound emotional turmoil following the loss of his girlfriend, a relationship that ended when she discovered his criminal past. This loss fueled a growing rage within him, transforming his feelings of rejection into a desire for revenge against society at large. It was during this period that he began to develop sadistic fantasies that would later manifest in his brutal killings. The monster unleashed Yang's killing spree. Yang Xinhai's killing spree lasted from 1999 until 2003, during which he targeted isolated families living in rural villages across several provinces in China. His choice of victims was strategic. He preyed on those who were most vulnerable, often farmers living far from urban centers where law enforcement resources were limited. His method involved breaking into homes at night while wearing new clothes and large shoes to avoid leaving behind identifiable footprints. Armed with various weapons, including axes, hammers, and shovels, he would bludgeon entire families to death without mercy. The brutality with which he executed these killings left communities reeling in fear. Yang's ability to evade detection for so long can be attributed to his forensically aware nature. He took precautions to cover his tracks meticulously after each murder. The end of the killing spree, arrest and execution. The end of Yang Xinhai's killing spree came after a routine police check in Kangzhou on November 3, 2003. Evidence linking him to numerous crime scenes, including fingerprints, ultimately led to his arrest. Following his capture, Yang confessed to committing 67 murders and 23 rapes, shocking both law enforcement officials and the general public alike. His trial lasted less than an hour before he was sentenced to death on February 1, 2004. A reflection not only of the gravity of his crimes, but also the urgency with which authorities sought closure on this horrific chapter in China's criminal history. Yang was executed by firing squad on February 14, 2004, a fate that many believed was warranted given the sheer scale of his brutality. A cold and calculated killer, his disturbing motives. Understanding Yang Xinhai's motives requires delving into the chilling psyche behind his actions. In interviews following his arrest, Yang expressed apathy towards human life and revealed disturbing insights into his motivations for killing. He stated plainly, "When I killed people, I had a desire to kill more." Such statements reflect not only a lack of remorse, but also an unsettling thrill derived from inflicting pain on others. Driven by rage stemming from personal grievances and the loss of his girlfriend, Yang Xinhai's killings were acts of revenge and sadistic power plays. This blend of revenge and enjoyment of violence reveals the complex interplay of trauma and psychopathic tendencies common among serial killers. Why Yang's crimes were kept quiet, the Chinese government's dilemma. The Chinese government's response to Yang Xinhai's crimes reflects broader cultural attitudes toward crime reporting and public safety within China. Unlike Western media's sensationalized coverage of serial killers, Chinese state media's reporting on Yang's case emphasized law enforcement efforts, downplaying gruesome details. To control the narrative surrounding Yang's crimes, Chinese authorities took measures to suppress public knowledge. The trial was conducted swiftly and largely out of the public eye, with limited media coverage focusing on Yang's capture rather than the details of his horrific acts. This lack of transparency aimed to prevent widespread panic and maintain public order, a concept known in China as weiqi wending. By keeping details under wraps, officials sought to reassure citizens that such violence was an anomaly rather than indicative of broader societal issues. The monster killer's place in history. Today, Yang Xinhai is viewed through a lens shaped by both horror and disbelief, a figure whose actions have left an indelible mark on China's crime history, yet remain largely unacknowledged outside its borders. His legacy serves as a reminder not only of individual depravity, but also of systemic failures within society that allow such violence to occur unchecked for extended periods. Unlike many notorious Western serial killers whose stories are widely discussed in popular culture, romanticized or sensationalized, Yang's case remains shrouded in silence within China itself, largely due to governmental efforts at suppression, coupled with cultural stigmas surrounding discussions about violent crime. As time passes, questions linger regarding whether future generations will fully comprehend or acknowledge the extent of Yang Xinhai's atrocities, or if they will remain confined within history books as cautionary tales about humanity's darker impulses hidden beneath societal facades. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video for more true crime content. Together, we can shed light on these dark chapters of history and work towards a safer future.